Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here, and it is time for the virtual coffee break. Here's my coffee. Grab your beverage and let's chat for just a minute, shall we? Had a couple of interesting conversations today, and one of the common things that happened in both conversations was a tendency to immediately think about why you can't do something instead of why you can. And this is something that I'm familiar with, partly because it's one of the patterns that I have as well, in that I think that there's a part of us that is a self-protection mechanism and a part of us that wants to conserve energy, especially, someone like me. I have a feeling that the majority of my decisions are all around how my energy is used. But it's interesting to me that we won't even let a person finish sharing an idea with us before we've shot down all of the reasons why it can't happen or why it's not really a good idea. And so what ends up happening is that we don't even think about it as a possibility. And I remember Michael Neal talking about a client of his who had wanted to move to an area in California where they could have a view of the ocean and, have the kind of lifestyle that they wanted to have. And he asked why she hadn't done that. And she said, well, it's going to be too expensive. And he said, well, here's your assignment. He said, I want you to go up there this weekend and I want you to just drive around. I want you to look at all of the houses that you can find that are on the market, and I just want you to see what's available. Well, lo and behold, they actually found a house that worked for their budget, for their location, for the vision that they had. And within a month or two, they had actually moved into that new place in the area that they wanted to live. And the only reason that that was possible was because they had set aside the assumptions that they had made from the beginning about what it was going to be like to buy a house in that area. It was going to be too expensive, or it was going to be, it's not going to be the right house. We'd have to settle for something that we don't like, that's in our price range and things like that. But he interrupted that self-talk of coming up with all of the reasons why they couldn't do something and said, well, why don't you just go check it out and see what's real? And I think that that's one of the things that I've started to do for myself when I find myself in kind of a self-talk cycle that is presenting all of the reasons why I can't. I think it's important for me to equally spend, if not more time, on why I can. So one of the exercises that I've been doing a lot with folks lately is I want you to make a list of all the reasons why you can do something instead of the reasons why you can't do something. It's been amazing to see just that one little shift in the way that they're looking at the opportunity in front of them. When they start looking at the reasons why they can do something, all of a sudden they shift into a feeling of being empowered and actually being capable of doing that thing. And I've seen that for my own self. I've had physical challenges in my life for the last, since like 2006, 2007 was when I first started to have really difficult physical things going on. And I really did have to stop doing some things during that time in order to let my body recuperate and recover. And I had to actually get health, treatment and major surgery along the way. But one of the things that was really interesting is that during that time, instead of focusing on the things that I couldn't do, which would have been pretty depressing at that time, I focused on the things that I could do. And I just started experimenting with everything that was possible for me in that time. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot of physical activity. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play my instrument. But one of the things that was really fun is that I didn't have to give up music altogether during that time, because I discovered electronic music, and I discovered sequencers, and I discovered all of these different ways that I could still have musical ideas and expression. It was just difficult for me to play the guitar at that time because my arms and wrists and hands were, in pain. So yeah, I had to look at ways that I had to adapt, but I didn't write it off altogether. And that was a very important lesson for me to learn, is that even in that time when it was really difficult for me to do some of the things that I had been used to doing up until then, there were still options that were available to me that I could do. So one of the things that I look at is that I feel like that if you want to feel really disempowered in your life, make a list of all the things that you can't do, and make a list of all of the reasons why you can't do things. You'll feel disempowered. If you want to feel empowered in your life, make a list of all of the things that you can do and all of the reasons that you can do things, and you're going to start to shift. I've been through a real interesting time in the last year in that I'm going through some physical things again, and the stamina that I need to do a 2.5 or a 3 hour musical performance is real difficult to come by. But I can still create music in my home studio. I can still write songs. I can still make up guitar pieces. I can still create, and I can still be engaged in music. It just looks different now. So I've made a list of all of the ways that I can be musical instead of focusing on the reasons that it's difficult for me to do some of the things that I've done before. Well, okay. But I feel empowered musically because I can still create, right? I think it's important when we're going through times of brainstorming and evaluating to really hold off on making judgments about the ideas that come forward. If our initial movement is toward reasons why we can't, I think one of the things that we need to look at is, can we hush that voice for just a long enough time that we can think about what are the ways that could happen? What are the ways that I could do that? What are the ways that are available? The other thing that I wanted to look at, and I've talked about this before in other videos and in other places, human beings have egos, and our egos are a part of a mechanism that is self-protecting. And these types of criticisms and these types of things, the behaviors that we have that keep us from taking risks, generally are ego behaviors. They are self-protection. They've gotten us here so far, but ultimately, in order to grow, one of the things that has to happen is that we have to go beyond what those voices are telling us we can do. I don't see the ego as a bad thing. I see it as an incompetent master, but I don't see it as a bad thing because it is a part of every human experience. It is a pretty significant part of our psychological development and our self-protection. It's all good. But what I want to say is that when it comes to really envisioning the future that you want, we really want your creative part of your being to be the one that's driving the boat instead of your ego. We really want that imaginal mind to be given complete reign and ability to generate the ideas that it needs to generate in order to move us forward. And having ego there, just habitually saying, nope, that won't work. Nope, that won't work. You can't do that. Nope, that won't work. Just, we've got to see it for what it is, that it is a self-protection. And hello, little monkey back there. Don't worry about me. I'm just looking at some new options that are going to be good for both of us. So just chill out for a little while, hold off on your judgments, and let me do my brainstorming and let me do my exploring. And let me drive to the coast this weekend and see what's really possible, right? Those are my thoughts for today. I hope you've enjoyed the coffee break, and I will be back again tomorrow with another coffee break. I wanted to mention that this week for Thanksgiving, there are a few things going on. I am going to have a special Thanksgiving Day version of the Your Own Best Company podcast. It's another wonderful discussion with my friends Erica Holthausen and Audrey Holst. We just got together and had a wonderful conversation around the idea of deep work. And that's going to be happening on Thanksgiving Day. On Friday, for the regular release of Your Own Best Company, I've got my good friend Kat Stancic coming back. And she's going to be talking a lot about a new concept that she's been working with and a new tool that she's been developing called Firework Experiences. You're not going to want to miss it. So that's going to be happening on Friday. Also on Friday, I'm going to be appearing as a part of my good friend Meredith Grundy and Joseph Bennett's podcast, Are You Waiting for Permission? They're doing a special event on Friday that I think is really kind of a cool idea, and I'm excited to be a part of it. It's their first ever pod-a-thon. They're going to be podcasting for 12 hours on Friday, starting at 11 o'clock Eastern Time in the U.S. I'm going to be their first guest. I think I go on. I think they start at 10 and I go on at 11 Eastern Time. So I'll be there for a little while on Friday morning talking to my good friends Meredith and Joseph and supporting their wonderful pod-a-thon. I think it's a great thing. The pod-a-thon is a effort to raise some money, not only to keep producing their podcast, but it's also they're going to be offering a fairly significant percentage of the funds that they raise to charitable causes. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun on Friday. Those are the things that are going to be coming up later in the week. Of course, on Saturday and Sunday, I'll be back again with the regular old coffee break. But I do appreciate, as always, your time and your attention. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much. So long.